Now let me athletically try to hit this golf ball, and let's see how I do it. So this is pretty wild to me. So I'm a data guy. I like to collect a lot of data when I can, when I have questions, because I'm always searching for answers. So I asked 271 golfers, my students and other fellow golfers, one simple question: do you practice ball position? Do you know how many people answered yes? 6. And according to my math, that's roughly 2% of the golfers that I asked if they practice their ball position. Only 2% answered yes. And if the ball's not in the right spot and you're not practicing this, it could cause flipping, it could cause chunks, it could cause thins, it could cause slices, it could cause hooks. There's so many things that poor ball position can cause. But there is no one ball position that's right for everybody. And that's the wild thing. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. So let's head over to the tee and get to work. So I really want this video to resonate with all of you out there, because again, ball position can be the root of a lot of issues that you have in the golf swing. For those of you that have watched my videos for a while now, you know I always talk about the basics. I always talk about the setup. Why? Because it influences not just impact, but dynamically how we move, the kinematic sequence and everything around it. And ball position is a big part of this. And if your ball position doesn't match what you're doing, you are going to struggle. You're going to hit behind it. It's going to create sways. It's going to create tilts where we don't want to have tilts, poor weight shifts, poor pressure shifts, and everything else in between. So I'm going to try to talk to each and every one of you out there. It's not easy through a camera, but I want to create light bulb moments for you so you can go out and practice this stuff. Because like I said, only 6 out of 271. I know that's a relatively small sample size in the big picture. Not a lot of you out there practice this stuff. And if this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, I want to welcome you. My name is TJ Valentine. I am a 25-year PGA teaching professional. I've been teaching this game a long time, given well over 30,000 lessons in person and remotely. And I really want my passion, my knowledge, my experiences to help you become a better player. So consider joining this growing community of golfers and awesome people out there like you. I am holding a brand new Callaway AI Smoke driver in my hand because I want to give it away to one of you. I did this in a video about a month or so back, and a lot of people did want me to bring it back. So at the end of this video, I'm going to do a 3-shot hole-in-one challenge. We're going to head to Bay Hill in Orlando, Florida. I believe the 14th hole is what we are going to challenge ourselves with today. If I do make a hole-in-one, I'm going to give this driver away to one of you subscribers out there. But even if I don't make a hole-in-one, I'm still going to give away a remote coaching session to one of you. And I want to make this something I do a lot on this channel. I want to be able to connect with you, not just through these videos, but actually connect with you and really help you, the individual, play better golf. So no matter if I make a hole-in-one or not, I know the odds are not in my favor. Honestly, I've never made a hole-in-one in a simulator before. So fun fact, maybe today's the day. All right, let's get to the lesson, T. I'm done babbling. Let's get to work. Let's get you to understand ball position and how it affects your ball flight and how you move. And I just want you to become aware of this stuff because it probably will help you become a better ball striker. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to use a 7-iron, and I'm going to talk about ball position as it relates to a 7-iron here, because we could be here all day talking about this. I will sprinkle in the driver and the shorter clubs as well, but my main purpose of this is to establish the understanding of why ball position is so important, how to practice good ball position, and how to really diagnose if your ball position is right for you from a geometry standpoint. And all that may sound confusing, but in reality it's not. You know, it's just understanding matchups and proper matchups as it relates to your swing. So what is ball position? Ball position at the end of the day is the position of the golf ball relative to your feet and your body. It affects affects a lot of things. It affects your strike. It affects your angle of attack. It affects where you strike it on the face. It affects the curvature of the golf ball. It affects launch angles. It affects so many things that people really don't think about, to be honest with you. Whenever people hit a bad shot, they think of it somewhere dynamically in the swing. But a lot of times the dynamics, poor or good, can be greatly affected by the geometry of the ball. Where is that ball in relation to your stance? So think of the golf swing as an arc. It's a little more complicated than that, but let's just think of it as an arc. So an arc has a bottom point. It has a point at which it's working down, and that reaches that bottom point. That bottom point is what we call low point. And then after low point, it starts to exit up and it starts to exit in. So if I'm standing from this angle, you can see it's on a tilt. The club is going to come down, reach a low point, and then it's going to exit up and around the body. If that ball is not in the right place in that arc when you're swinging, you're not going to strike it well. So if I put this arc on the ground, and let's put the ball too far forward. My low point, I know this is a pretty big exaggeration, but my low point is significantly behind the ball. That can lead to fat shots. That could lead to a lot of things that's going to cause poor impact, club path issues, face issues, and really, everything above. If that low point or the ball is too far back, our low point is now going to be too far forwards. So this club is going to catch the ball on the significant downswing part of it. We can call that a steep impact. It's not steep because you're swinging vertical or steep. It's steep because of the geometry of where the ball position is in your stance. Now, what ends up happening is us as humans, we don't let that stuff happen. We're trying to make the best strike we possibly can. So for example, if I have the ball position too far back in my stance, and I do see players that do this, what's going to happen is if they make a golf swing from here, they're probably going to top. If they make a good golf swing, put it this way, from there, they are going to probably top the ball, they'll miss the ball, they'll hit big blocks because the face doesn't have a chance to get square or neutral. Most of the time, the golfer is not going to allow that to happen. If that ball is too far back in the stance, most likely the golfer is going to hang back. Most likely the golfer is going to have to flip and release the club too early. Most likely that impact is always going to be poor because the ball position doesn't match up to dynamically how we want to move overall. And we could say same thing for ball position too far forwards. If I have a ball too far forwards, I make a good swing, this club's going to want to bottom out somewhere here. Me as an athlete, I'm not going to let that happen over and over again. So next thing you know, what starts to happen? I start to move laterally. I start to collapse my lead leg. There's all sorts of things that start to happen because we're athletes, because we're trying to get this golf club to get to the ball. So we have to have the ball position in the proper spot relative to how you move, because it's going to greatly influence ultimately how you move if it's not in the right spot. So I'm going to give you a simple process here. Now, here is my caveat to all of this. Everybody is a little bit different. In some cases, players are a lot different. So dynamically, everybody moves a little bit differently because of body types, because of physical limitations, because of a lot of things. So what I'm going to tell you here as a process may not work for everybody. There may be nuances that have to be done. You may have to play the ball a little bit more forward than what I'm going to talk about here. You may have to move the ball back a little bit, relative to how you swing. And remember, I'm talking about a 7-iron here. A driver would be more forward, so on and so forth, but I'm only talking about a 7-iron here. So I'm going to give you a process to practice this at home. And again, without seeing your personal golf swing, there may be nuances to this. And that's why I always say this in all of my videos. There is no one size that fits all, but I'll tell you what, there is a big bucket that a lot of people may fall into, not literally, they may fall into that will significantly help them. And at least at the end of the day, it gets you thinking about this stuff. And that's really where I want you to be. I don't want you to be only 6 of the 271 players that were thinking about this. Now, how I want you to approach the setup is pretty simple. So again, we're talking about a 7-iron. I want you to start with your feet relatively close together. And I want that ball to be off of the big toe of your lead foot, whether you're a righty or lefty, your lead foot. Now from here, you're gonna take your lead foot, you're gonna get it shoulder width, take your trail foot, you're gonna get it shoulder width. Now what's gonna end up is that golf ball is gonna be slightly forward of center. This ball position is a great starting point. Again, if players have limitations, let's say you are a player that has a little bit more of a lateral move because of hip restrictions, of hip flexor restrictions, of back issues, where you cannot create rotation, so you have to move a little bit more laterally. Well, that ball position may need to be a little bit more forward in order to match the geometry of your swing. But what I don't want to see is you start to get outside like a 1 to 2 inch window of this setup. Because once you start to get beyond those windows, that's when the body is going to have to really react and adapt to the ball position. So again, great way to practice this. Feet together, off of your big toe of your lead foot, shoulder width, then get into your setup. This ball position now is about, I'd say eyeballing it, an inch forward of my center here. So that's gonna establish a really good starting point. And then from there, you can work it up or slightly back a little bit, just depending on your small matchups overall. Again, I just wanna touch upon a driver. A driver, we'd wanna start it somewhere off of the big toe again. But from here, we are just gonna take our trail foot and we're gonna move our trail foot slightly outside our shoulder. Again, there are nuances to this. And as you can tell, all roads go back to setup. If your setup is good, it's gonna make it easier to do everything else that we talk about on this channel. So let me show you a couple examples. Another thing I do have to touch upon is perception. A lot of times I'll ask students where they think the ball position is in their stance, and they could be off by 6, 7, 8 inches just based on how they perceive in their vision and all of the angles. I mean, golf is tough because we sit at a certain angle, tilt our head down the fairway. Angles are really, really challenging, and that's why alignment can be very, very challenging as well. Again, going back to all of these core basics before we even swing a club, that can influence how we swing a club. So I'm gonna show you, after I give you a couple examples here of what can happen, I'm gonna show you another process in terms of how to practice. So I gave you a process in terms of where we start, how we open up. That's a great way to go through your process when you're playing. But I'm gonna give you another way to practice as well, just with some alignment sticks that will keep your perception and reality working together as a team to make sure you don't drift. And that's one of the things that I also see a lot of players do. They start to drift with that ball position. So I'm just gonna hop on the pressure mat here. I'm gonna pop some of this on the screen. And I'm just gonna show you just some simple examples of what I see. And maybe this will resonate with you in terms of how the body will react to certain ball positions. So if I put the ball position back in my stance, so as you can see right now, this is very far back, relatively speaking, for a 7-iron. But I do see players more than you would think that in this position, perceptually, think the ball is closer to the middle of their stance, but in reality, it's significantly back. So what the body is gonna do at this point is, because it knows if it makes a good swing from here, it's going to top the golf ball. That wasn't done on purpose either, because my body is working over here to the left side of center, my center of pressure moves over, and my low point moves here. But just like I showed you at the beginning, I'm now catching that more significantly on the downward side of the arc. So some would say, oh, I got really steep on that. Well, yeah, geometrically it impacted was steep, but I'll tell you what, that was actually a pretty decent swing, believe it or not. Now let's put the ball back in that same spot. Now let me athletically try to hit this golf ball, and let's see how I do it. So I actually hit the golf ball halfway decent. I struck the ball okay, but what did I do? I had to back up in order to strike that golf ball fairly well. And quite frankly, I hit it all right. All right is not good enough because that's as good as I'll get. I hit that ball 142 in the air. I carry my 7-iron roughly 160 to 165. So ball position is going to directly affect impact and everything around it and directly affect how I move. Now let me show you on the opposite end. What if I put the golf ball too far forwards in my stance? Now, what if I made a good swing from here? That's a base hit up the middle, got through the pitcher's legs. So again, my arc bottomed out behind the ball and then the club started to work up. So I caught it more on the upswing geometrically. What happens with players at this point? If they don't fix the ball position, they need to move differently to hit that golf ball better. So what do? They move their body forwards, they dive forwards, and they hit the golf ball. I hit that pretty poorly, but they hit the golf ball. But how did they do it? They had to move everything laterally to the extreme to try to move the arc. That arc, hold on. They had to move their body forward to move that arc forwards. I don't want you to have to do all of that stuff. And honestly, if you're a player that's had ball position too far forward for you for years, the body has learned how to move that way to play functional golf at the end of the day. Are you gonna maximize your ability? Probably not. Are you gonna maximize your launch angles, your distance, your spin rates? All of those things. Maximize low point control? No, because you have a lot of extra stuff going on in the golf swing. So I'm going to quickly show you another way to practice this to ensure that your ball position, especially when you're on the range or if you're training, is in the right spot every single time or stays consistent every single time. So all you need are 2 snow stakes, 2 alignment rods. You can use 2 clubs as well. And what you're going to simply do, now, there are training aids out there that you can buy that are kind of marketed and designed towards this. Honestly, if you have a halfway decent eye to cross these clubs, go to Home Depot, Lowe's, your local hardware store, get a couple of these. They're $1, a couple dollars a piece. I actually will buy them bulk at Amazon, and I'll always give them away to my students because I always have a bunch. So what you're gonna do, and I know you've seen this before, but how many of you actually do this? Now, a lot of people will use these sticks as alignment tools, which obviously huge benefit, as long as you're practicing the correct alignment. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Make sure you subscribe. That will be coming up at some point. But what I'm gonna do here is I am going to cross these 2 sticks. I am going to place the golf ball at the end. What is this gonna do for me? Well, it's gonna train where this ball is in my stance, because I can look down and I can actually see where these 2 sticks cross, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier from a visual standpoint to understand that this ball is here in my stance, because I see this is exactly where they cross at this point. Great way to practice this, because I guarantee you, if you start to drift, like say you're a golfer that has a tendency to fall back a little bit with the ball position, where it starts to drift back in your stance a little bit. I immediately see, okay, the cross is now well back of center, but if I didn't have these sticks there, it wouldn't be as obvious, especially if it's something that you have a tendency to do a lot overall. And I'm gonna address one more thing. Players that chunk the golf ball typically will immediately put the ball a little further back in their stance. And I always refer to that as a dog chasing their tail, working really hard but going nowhere. Because the further back you put it in your stance, the further you're going to essentially, and there's a lot of things that can happen, but you're gonna get stuck on your trail side and it's never gonna fix the issue. And again, you're gonna have to keep moving that ball back and back and back in your stance to hit it halfway decent, and the body will never be able to move the way it needs to move because you're gonna be stuck swinging off of your trail foot. But for players that typically chunk the ball a lot with their irons, they have a tendency to move the ball back in their stance, and it may help a little tiny bit overall, but it's never gonna correct the big issue. It's never gonna correct it, and to be honest with you, it's gonna make that body work backwards, and you're gonna get stuck, and there's a lot of other things. Flipping can start to occur. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen at that point. Ball position has to be consistent. Whether it's slightly forward of where I've talked about or slightly back of where I talked about, within reason, within that 2-inch window, that ball position has to be consistent. If it's not, I promise you, your body is not gonna move as efficiently as it possibly can, and you're never gonna optimize your strikes. So please practice your ball position. Do these little workstations that I talked about here today at home. Practice with your feet together and then work into your setup that way. Practice with these sticks. I promise you, I want that number to go from 6 out of 271 to 271 out of 271, because anybody, no matter what your level is, can benefit from this. All right, who wants to win that driver? So let's hop over to Bay Hill virtually and take those 3 shots on that par 3. If I make a hole-in-one, that driver's gonna go to one of you guys. If I don't, that's okay. I'm still gonna give away a free remote coaching session. All you have to do, like I said, be a subscriber, comment below, do you have a practice setup at home, and I will choose a winner. I'll put the full details in the description below. So let's head on over to Orlando. All right, we know what we're playing for here. Callaway AI Smoke driver. 3 shots, you know the rules. If I make a hole-in-one, the driver's going out to one of you guys that are subscribers that comment below. But as a bonus, I'm gonna give away a free lesson to one of you anyways. And this is something that I'm gonna be doing with most of my videos going forward. So again, if you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, so what are we working with here? So this is the 14th hole at Bay Hill. It's beautiful out right now. It's not, there's no snow on the ground like there is behind me. It's about 82 degrees out, no wind, calm. Pin in the back left, 166. 3 shots, whatever happens, happens. Let's do a little flyover just to give you a little bird's eye view of this hole and what we're looking at here. Beautiful hole. As you can see, pins in the back left. Obviously, it's hole-in-one or bust here, so we have to be aggressive. So normally I would always take middle back of the green, slightly right of the pin. And to be honest with you, I'm probably pretty much still gonna stick with that game plan. I'm gonna try to work the ball in just a little bit right to left. That's my normal ball flight overall. I'm gonna try to start the ball right of the bunker slightly and bring it back in. I do have to hit it solid because this is the top end of this club. Visualize, lock in. 3 good swings for you guys. I pushed that so far to the right. All right, well, that is not gonna get it done. Shot number 2, we're not changing anything. Trust the process. A little bit better there. Be the right club. Come on. I'm just working it up to this shot right here, building a little drama. Flare the first one to the right, hit the second one a little low on the face, but right at it, a little short. And this one just may go in. In. Oh, be good. Be good. Be good. Oh. I tried, and I'm gonna keep trying. We'll see you in the next video.